Hi there, I'm James Bell, Head of Medical Negligence and Personal Injury at Kingsley Napoli Solicitors, and I'm really delighted to welcome Nicole Scott and Poppy Chamberlain to our offices here at Bonhill Street. And warm welcome to Nicole and Poppy. Thanks for coming in. Nicole and Poppy both work for the Backup Spinal Charity, who are a peer support charity working with people with spinal injuries. And we're here today talking about different subjects, but the next topic to discuss is housing. And that's something that's very familiar to us as solicitors. Often an injured person comes to us and the injury is such that their housing is being rendered, often huge parts of their housing is being rendered inaccessible to them. So they're in maybe a flat or a three-story house, whatever, and they're in the ground floor, living on the ground floor, unable to access the rest of their accommodation. And part of our job as the solicitor is either to get that property adapted as quickly as possible or for them to move. And a lot of our focus actually in the early part of the claim is securing interim payment and then arranging for either adaptations or actual move to more suitable property. And I think that's something you're probably very familiar with as well. So I wonder if you could just tell us about what Backup do in terms of housing support.
Well, it's a big topic, like you say, and when we're talking to relatives and their loved one is perhaps in the spinal unit still or just about to come home, it's a major concern for people. We hear a lot about people's worries and concerns about what the future is going to hold in that aspect. From my own personal experience, we had interim payments from our solicitor when my husband was injured, and we had to move property ourselves. We were living in a flat that had no lift access, and we had to rent for a little while and until we could find a more suitable accommodation. So we're here to listen to people and to sort of hear about their concerns and understand. Backup as a charity doesn't have specific housing advice criteria, if you like, but there are other spinal charities across the country, and we work very closely with the other charities, and where we don't perhaps have specific experience of that particular area, we would then signpost people on. So for housing and housing advice, it would be Aspire, and we work very closely with them, and we will be able to talk to them and signpost people to speak to them about the nitty-gritty, about the actual logistics, about what could happen. But in the first instance, we're very much there to sort of listen to people and hear their concerns and be there for them, really. That's about right, isn't it?
I'd say so. I think it's definitely about that, and just getting their basic understanding of what the correct pathway to support actually is, because they perhaps have never had to do this before. Their experience of accessible housing, or what are their family members' needs. So getting the right, accessing the right support, getting the right legal advice, all those sorts of things. And that's kind of where we're quite happy to signpost and make sure that people are following the right path.
Yeah. And also your peer support network and your lived experience for so many of your people, that's a great benefit and a great resource for injured people.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, great. The other topic I wanted to touch on now was about schooling and education, which I think is something that you're very much involved with as well as a charity. So I wonder if you could just tell us a bit more about that.
Absolutely. So within family support, obviously, we are here to support the family members, which quite often involves parents if a child has had a spinal cord injury themselves. And we have a really knowledgeable and extensive children and young people's team within Backup. So they are there to support the young person and the parents as well, but to facilitate a child to be able to get back into school, into their mainstream school, their school that they were in before. They can support the child and their expectations and their worries about going back into school. But they can also support the school to make sure that they have measures in place. Accessibility is okay for that child. If they might need a little extra time out to use a bathroom, make sure they've got an accessible bathroom near to classrooms, all that kind of stuff. And then it doesn't just apply to children of school age. The children and young people's team support people up to the age of 25. So if we've had a fair number of cases recently where the injured person is around 18, 19 years old, wants to not sure whether they can then go to university with their spinal cord injury, and our CYP team can support them through that process and also liaise with the universities themselves and make sure that that is a smooth transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's something we are familiar with. Problems with funding from local authorities, EHCP appeals.
Yes.
This is a huge area. We worked quite closely with education lawyers, and obviously it's a massive area of dispute, unfortunately, when EHCP is not being appropriate.
And actually, our education inclusion advisor can be that extra person to sort of back up, if you like, the application process and make sure that the governing body that deals with the EHCPs actually fully understands what that child's needs are, and they'll go to education conferences, they'll go to the school, and they'll be fully involved in that process as well. So
that's fantastic. That's really down to earth, hands-on support, which is really what families need at that time. And that's, as I say, it's a huge problem area with obviously increasingly tight budgets for local authorities.
Of course.
Great support you offer. Yeah. And well, thanks very much, both of you, Poppy and Nicole, for coming in and talking about the wonderful work you do, but on the housing front and also with the education and children front, which is invaluable support to your injured parties.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.